Hello, everyone at Marjorie. My name is Lauren. I'm moderating today's session for you guys. I have put some information in the chat to just give you guys a quick rundown on some things. And I do want to quickly introduce Sharon Taylor, our speaker today. So Sharon, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. All right, so this presentation covers a topic that's near and dear to my heart. That's the relationship between sales and marketing. And it's told from the marketer's perspective with a focus on what marketers can do for sales, since in my opinion, the number one rule of B2B marketing is marketing works for sales. So a few other notes about this presentation as we get started. So what this presentation is and who it's for. So one, it's mostly common sense. I don't expect any of the insights covered here today to be new or earth-shattering. The goal really is to bring to mind some of the things that you could be doing, should be doing, want to be doing, but just haven't prioritized yet. So what does success look like coming out of this session? We're going to cover 7 tips to gain better alignment between sales and marketing. And if you walk away with a commitment to put maybe 2 or 3 of those insights into action, that would be success. And a reminder of who the key audience is for this presentation. If you're a B2B marketer responsible for delivering sales leads, this is speaking directly to you. And if you're not that marketer, hopefully you can take something back to people in your organization that are. So let's get started with our first tip. Building before you understand is a recipe for disaster. I know I've lived this experience and you probably have too. So how do we address it? We're going to cover some do's and don'ts. So first, do engage directly with sales. And really this goes for any stakeholder group that you have. Now, I think the absolute best way to understand the sales process is to observe it. Don't just ask about the sales process, observe it. The number one thing that you can do is sit in on sales calls. I think that's the number one takeaway, putting it out there right here up front. And there's really no substitution for this. It's a great opportunity to learn how reps sell, learn how customers and prospects react, what sales tools are used, how they're modified, and what tools are ignored. In my experience, sales has never pushed back on inviting me into calls, but if for whatever reason you're not able to schedule those, I think, viewing a recording of a sales call works almost just as well. And a few additional tips here to, one, ask to be included in any rep follow-up for that call, so you get a sense of that full process. 2, observe multiple reps. Reps are not robots. Everyone sells a bit differently, so it's important to understand how different people approach the same process. And then 3, this is not a one-time task. So products evolve, sales teams change, you're going to forget some of what you heard. So hold yourself accountable to a regular refresh schedule. I would suggest doing this at least quarterly. And then beyond observing, interviews are a key to understanding the needs of the sales team. Ask about their pain points. And while marketing is the focus, don't ignore other pain points that impact how sales and marketing work together. Also ask about their goals and their wish list. If sales and marketing have different goals, you're not going to be aligned. Pretty simple there. And of course, we're aligned on the number one goal of growing revenue, but what's the path to get there? Does sales have specific goals for new business versus retention or by product line? And how does the marketing strategy align? What else is on the sales wish list besides crushing revenue goals? How could they better use their time? And what would make work more enjoyable? And as a reminder, solicit feedback from a cross-section of the sales team. So don't just talk to sales managers or your favorite sales reps. Really do your best to hear from the full range of perspectives. Another do is to map any and all sales processes. So this includes existing processes, how are leads managed? What does the opportunity path look like? What insights do sales have into marketing activity? What are the processes that occur before and after a sales rep is involved? and what's the overall customer experience, as well as new processes. So map every single step here, every single click. It's a tedious process, yes, but imagine how tedious it must be for reps when there are redundant or unnecessary steps that they have to take over and over every day. Run the proposed processes by your cross-section of sales reps. Again, not just the few. Really want to get the full breadth of experience there and really listen to their feedback. Also map the external processes, and by external here, I mean anything outside of the Salesforce sales and marketing ecosystem. So think of something like a financial system that could be used to book orders or pay commission. And then a don't. Don't lead with solutions. So one way to keep yourself honest here is to list out your biases. Do you have a platform of choice? And why is that? Is it based on your familiarity with it? What are the features and benefits of that platform, and do they align with the current needs? What are the competitors in that set, and how do they align? Are there potential solutions from a completely different competitor set? What's your stance on build versus buy? Personally, I know that I've been burned one too many times by building, so I have a personal bias towards buy, but that doesn't mean that it's always the right answer. Also, compare your solutions. So do your own analysis because you're going to have specific needs for your organization, but also look to external sources like G2, Gartner, Forrester, and get input from your network as well. So our second tip, there's no substitute for good communication. So do focus on the what's in it for me for the sales team. Simplify as much as possible. Make your communication digestible. So think small bites, things like posting on Chatter or Slack updates, and make sure that you're editing yourself. Also, tailor your communication by role. We don't all care about the same things. So focus on what's important to each group. Sales reps, sales leadership, marketing leadership, we're all going to have different needs. Also, do make sure that you provide training and documentation. Deliver content in multiple formats. Not everyone learns the same way. A few key types of content formatting I would recommend is step-by-step guides, video tutorials, and hosting live Q&A sessions, all part of the overall training strategy. Also ensure that your content is easily accessible and update it regularly because things change. Layouts, processes, all of this can change. Want to make sure that everything is up to date and relevant. And then for a don't put the onus on sales. So, don't make anyone else think too much, dig too hard, or wait too long. If you're providing support to sales in any way, which you probably are, you should have a service level agreement outlining the expected turnaround time. Next, too much data can overwhelm. So do align with sales leadership on key metrics. And you'll want to measure what you treasure. This can be as simple as making sure that the data you provide sales is relevant. One example, small example, is my sales team told me that they don't really care about email opens. We used to provide that data through email opens and clicks, and we've since eliminated any open data. It's irrelevant. It just clutters the campaigns for them, so we only pass through click data. Do also take advantage of data visualization. You might have a separate team that manages sales operations and provides reporting, but if not, it's a great opportunity to add value to the sales and marketing relationship. Really being the person or the group that can own, managing the data, telling stories with data, visualizing the data is a huge benefit. So using dashboards, they can offer a quick snapshot into views to track status and progress for both reps and managers, and can also uncover insights such as which opportunities have the most room for improvement and how an average deal size or product mix changes over time. And on to a don't share data without a purpose. So sometimes a data report can be replaced by a simple sentence or bullet. And if people don't need detail, don't share it with them. You can clarify that you can always provide data upon request, but don't send data by default unless it's relevant. So one thing I think of here is strive to be Google, where people go to find their answers, not the phone book that people get and don't want. Moving on to number 4, the person closest to the relationship has the best understanding of it. So do give sales the option to opt out. They know their customers and prospects better than you do. So leverage CRM visible lists to opt out of campaigns or programs. Think more point in time, not opting out completely, but more of a quiet period. And use engagement programs to snooze contacts. And more on this in a minute. Also, do encourage sales to provide meaningful feedback. So provide easy options to update details such as roles and buying intent. I think is a contacted decision maker. Is the company in market for a solution? If sales can easily update the records with detail that's useful for them, you can make sure that you're making use of that detail as well for segmentation and reporting. Also, consider utilizing customizable campaign influence to allow sales to indicate which campaigns had the most influence in advancing an opportunity. And then don't get in the way when sales is actively engaged. So just as sales can snooze a contact, marketing can consider when to auto snooze an account by opportunity stage, using really similar functionality. Might not be for all communication, but there may be certain communication during certain stages that you really want to opt certain people out of. And taking a little bit closer look at that snooze program. So kind of a simple 4-step process here. So by having that CRM visible list, you can allow sales to select something as easily as calling it a marketing snooze list. So when sales adds a contact to that list, they enter into an engagement studio program, setting up just a simple, call it a 30-day wait step. They are entered into the list. They're immediately, clock starts ticking for that 30-day wait step. Meanwhile, marketing adds that snooze list to any suppression list for emails going out. And then automatically in that 4th step, as soon as it meets that time threshold, whether you set it at 30 days or longer, they'll be removed from the list and back into the regularly scheduled programming. Next, intuition can't be automated. So do learn what lead criteria sales values most. And a hint here, it's probably fewer criteria than you think. So, as marketers, we have access to tons of data, behavioral data, demographic, firmographic, but really, sales has that relationship. They're working on intuition a lot of times. So it's likely going to be much fewer criteria that they're really honing in on. So look at the data points like industry, revenue, contact titles, buying team size. One moment here. And make sure that, sorry, one slide back. So talking again about the criteria, making sure that you're not accounting for too much in your lead scoring. You really want to focus on what's important to sales so that you're not, adding in people, elevating people that are kind of the junk leads, but they've had positive behavior, or you're bearing who really is the most relevant leads because you're not tracking the right things. Also, do review closed deals to better understand the ideal customer profile. This data delivers insight to both marketing and sales. So that is adding all of the industry data, revenue data, and then working with sales directly to determine how these opportunities, what content can be used and upgraded for new campaigns, including account-based marketing strategies. Also, Don't forget to incorporate grading with lead scores. So just like we don't want to focus on the wrong people because we're tracking a lot of criteria that might not really fit. Grading is something that can come in and help ensure that we're looking at things based on the company as well as the behavior of the contact. So, a lower qualified contact may be coming in, engaging with tons of content. They seem like a really great lead, but if it's not the right company, if they're not the right revenue size, not coming from the right industry, it's really not the best lead. So having that comparison with a lead score and a grade can be really beneficial. And it helps to negate any negative sentiment that sales might have, thinking that marketing leads aren't quality. If they're used to seeing it's just the kind of junk leads that download all the ebooks or are engaging with content in other ways, grading helps really bring to the surface those contacts and accounts that are the true valuable leads. Next, marketing's role isn't to close deal, it's to make closing easier for sales. So do focus on source and influence. The less time that sales spend sourcing leads, the more time they have to spend selling. Marketing can help provide communication and content once a sales rep's engaged with a prospect, but the number one thing marketing can do is serve up qualified leads for sales to reach out to. So measuring where marketing helps move deals along shows contribution without claiming credit. It's sales jobs to close the deal, and no one wants to be told that they didn't do their job. 2, make follow-up easy. Marketing leads aren't always the only leads that sales has, so make sure it's super easy for them to follow up. This means making lead lists easily accessible with all the relevant demographics, firmographics, and contact info. And having a reputation for delivering quality leads will be more likely to result in quality follow-up. And for don't overemphasize revenue goals. So marketing doesn't have control over closing deals. You can say that marketing sourced maybe 100 leads that led to $1 million in revenue, but you really can't say that marketing closed $1 million in revenue. And always keep in mind that claiming too much attribution can lead to distrust. So, how much impact did downloading a single ebook really have on closing a 6 or 7 figure deal? And finally, we have our 7th tip here. So building advocacy trumps getting credit. So do give credit as much, if not more, than you seek it. And you can do this by making sure to use your data to tell the whole story, not just your role in it. Marketing can really shine in our ability to access data from different parts of the organization, to visualize it, to build out presentations that help tell the story. So make sure that you're bringing other people into that story and not just shining a spotlight on marketing. And sharing credit, really it builds trust and partnership. Things that you can give credit for to sales include, helping to develop the campaign strategy. That should be something that you're getting input from sales on and not just creating in a vacuum. So, giving a shout out for the role they played in that, for timely follow-up. So, follow-up is key. And when sales is engaged and in partnership with you to have timely follow-up, it's more likely that the campaign's going to have overall success. Organized tracking, making sure that they're tracking what the follow-up notes were, updating statuses. That's all going to be helpful for the overall campaign and ROI tracking. It's really something that you need to depend on sales to input where they're having that prospect engagement. And also giving a shout out to feedback from sales. They are the ones who are closest to that customer relationship. So understanding, how content was perceived by a prospect or customer, understanding the overall flow of a campaign. It's a really valuable feedback, and something that marketing is not going to be as close to. So really soliciting that feedback and valuing it is important in that sales and marketing relationship. Do ask for that advocacy directly. We all forget to give credit sometimes. So there's really no harm in asking. Ask for a testimonial. When someone openly appreciates your work, that's a great time to say, hey, would you mind sharing that with my manager, with your manager, making sure that both the sales leadership and marketing leadership and any other key stakeholder is getting that information. Marketing, the impact of marketing is notoriously difficult to measure. And there are some folks that are more resistant to believing the marketing hype than others. So advocacy can really cut through any questions about attribution. How does it really work? Are we double counting? Getting that valuable feedback, that advocacy from sales, there's really no substitution for it. And the final don't is don't claim credit that you don't deserve. One, it's not believable, and it builds mistrust and resentment from sales. You want your sales team to be your ally and your advocate, not your adversary. So hopefully you've taken away some actionable steps here from these 7 insights. Maybe it's sitting in on sales calls, or giving sales the option to snooze contacts, or taking the opportunity to snooze contacts or accounts yourself. Maybe it's something as simple as simplifying the data that you share with sales, really thinking about what's relevant and important to them. So a couple of key takeaways that I would recommend. And really, whatever you're thinking of implementing, your first step, it should be reaching out to your sales team to either start or expand that dialogue. So to close out here are just a few questions for conversation starter with sales. So one, starting with the data, asking what data would be helpful to have. If you can provide that data, really it's golden. In my experience, it's the thing that sales is most appreciative for is, getting clear, understandable, relevant, useful data to them. Another question, what are you spending too much time doing? How can marketing help simplify processes? And just an open-ended question of what's helpful to know about our customers and prospects that I might not know. Really open-ended, allows sales to give you that valuable feedback that only they have. So that is all I have for you today. Again, I hope you have some actionable items to take away, and open to any questions.
Awesome. Thanks. I think my internet's cutting in and out a little bit. Thank you, Sharon. We do have a couple of questions for you. The first one was, what tools do you recommend for process mapping? I know some people were discussing some within the chat, but definitely would love your insight into that as well.
I have to say I'm a little bit old school with really just kind of whiteboarding. I think that's a great place to start. I've used things like Visio in the past, to get it kind of on the digital whiteboard. Miro is another one. And I'd definitely be interested to pop into the chat and see what other people recommend too.
Yeah, somebody did mention Miro. I've used Lucidchart. We do have a couple other ones in there too. I'm a big advocate of whiteboards as well. I have 2 in my home office that I use all the time. Another question was, how do you approach building an ICP with sales for each product? Because, those conversations can be a little tricky. So how do you go ahead and approach those?
Yeah, I think really it starts with simplicity, like everything with sales. And this is not to like dog on sales and, say they're not as smart or anything. They're just so busy. And I think that, when you get into kind of the like talking about like buyer personas and you're, identifying like, here's, Ms. VP of Finance. I think that's where you start to lose people. So really, I start simple, and it's just, starts with storytelling. I think you can kind of build in some process after you get some of that initial data and information. But to me, it's just starting with like a lot of the open-ended questions, looking back at some of the recent opportunities, kind of dig in, use that to pull out information from sales. But I definitely try to keep it light and simple with the sales team.
Yep, definitely would agree on that. And then we do have a couple people asking if you can go back to that snooze program slide that you talked about. If you can navigate back, I really like that slide. I definitely took that as a note of a really cool idea to snooze that, to have that list.
Yeah. So, I was going to put in a screenshot here, but it got pretty small. So it really is this simple. So just use the kind of 4-step process here. So just adding that weight step. And so this is an example of doing it with, allowing sales to choose from that list. We also have other lists that it's just a more simplified, like we had a recent event where, some people were saying like, not interested in the event, you can stop with all your follow-up emails. So that's a simple, just opting out of a single program. But this snooze is kind of that set it and forget it, like just snooze for a certain time period. And then if it's the marketing auto snooze, you can do something similar, perhaps using automation rules. So if an opportunity is in a certain stage, add them to the, kind of marketing auto snooze list, and then follow the same step of putting them into an engagement program with a wait step.
Yep. And then I think this one's more specific. It goes with this, but how do you add the user to a contact? How would the user add the contact to a list? I'm assuming you just make those lists public within CRM visible.
Yeah. So, making it the list have that, there's a little checkbox for, I think it's a checkbox to make it CRM visible. And then you might just need to work with a, Salesforce administrator if it's not in the view, and always remember that different people have different views in Salesforce. So make sure that your sales team has that view visible in Salesforce.
Yep, definitely agree. Finding things sometimes in Salesforce, well, if you're a sales user, you have to make it really simple for them. So make sure you highlight it or put it in a really easy place that they can find
it. And that's just another tip on the communication. Like, so take a screenshot of exactly where it is. If it's a, couple, like calling out 1, 2, 3 step, posting that we use Chatter. If your sales team is on Slack, Teams, whatever it is, great place to post those kind of quick updates.
Yep. The more screenshots and stuff you give to sales, I feel like the easier it is for them to find things.
Exactly. And you'll still get questions, but at least then you can refer them back.
Yep, definitely. So that was all the questions that we had coming in. So just want to say thank you. Your point about marketing, our role is not to like close leads, but it's to generate leads. I think is something that is always a challenge. Marketing is always trying to get that dollar value. So it is always a good reminder that like, hey, we're not, once we give it to sales, it's kind of out of our control on what we can do.
Yeah. Take credit for the assist.
Exactly. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of Mark Dreamin', everyone.
Thank you.